One of the things about the sustainability factors, and we're very vocal about sustainability, but one of the things about it is that it will not sell a product for you. The data is really pretty clear. There's a lot of people that consider it to be an important consideration, but when actually presented with purchasing decisions, they go for quality products instead of compromising, or in their mind compromising, for sustainable products. Where it does come in handy is if you have a product that is high quality and people will try it, they will connect with it on a lot stronger level and in a lot more meaningful ways than if you didn't. And then also it works well as a tiebreaker.
Welcome back to Winning at Work. It's season 3, the podcast for the food and beverage and CPG world. I'm Jennifer Lee, Tony's new marketing sidekick and creative guru. I'll attempt to keep him on track as we discover the ideas and strategies behind all these different, better, and special brands.
Oh, good luck keeping me on track, but I am really stoked to have you on the team, Jennifer. Your background in marketing and SEO and socials. We are going to have so much fun this year. We're going to be discovering the new brands here in 2023. It's all about functional, good for you, lifestyle brands. Those are trending. Those are the products that are gaining market share and really pulling away from those old legacy brands. We're going to have each and every one of those brands down on the podcast to talk to us, to share their ideas, their inspiration, so you, the entrepreneur, so you, the food and beverage and CPG professional, can take these new ideas in and incorporate them into your business and into your life.
Oh my gosh, Tony, I'm seriously so excited. I feel like I learn so much just from listening to older episodes.
Well, that's why we're here. And if this is your first time here, I would recommend, go back, take the 5-episode challenge. Pick a brand, pick a CEO, an entrepreneur, dive in, listen to what it is that they're teaching us. If you love the content, subscribe. We hope you're along with us for the journey each and every week.
By the way, do you have a favorite brand in your market you would love for us to amplify on this national platform? Reach out to us on LinkedIn. And stay tuned for this week's episode. Hey, it's Jennifer. We get it. Everyone hates hiring. Inspired by his guest, Tony created a novel talent acquisition program that attracts the hidden candidate market, the 70% of people that are not actively applying to jobs. Click on the Attract link in the show notes to watch a demo.
Hey, welcome to Win at Work, everybody. It is Tony. Have I got a great show today? I've got Kevin McGee, President and CEO at Valley Brewing Company. In the past, I've interviewed small, local brewers. I've even had larger regionals. Today, we're going to be talking to one of the larger national brands. This is a really unique company, not only from a sales and a marketing perspective, but from a sustainability perspective. And they do some really cool things on property. Really can't wait to dive in and introduce everybody to Kevin McGee and all the cool things he's doing with Valley Brewing Company. Kevin, welcome in. Good to talk to you again.
Hey, Tony. Nice to talk to you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we've talked before a couple times, and I thought this would be it's high time to get you on to the podcast and just kind of talk through kind of some of the interesting things that you're seeing in the industry, how your company is growing, and what I'm really fascinated about is really how people get into the beverage business, how they get into this space, because you were formerly the chief executive officer for Tradecraft Strategic Advisors, so you've got this very strategic business, financial, operational kind of advisory skill set. You're also a founder and brewmaster, but now you find yourself, you're going on 4 years now as CEO of Valley. How do you make that transition from, advisory and kind of high level business valuation and move into running a beer company?
Well, I followed a pretty weird path. So I am really trying hard not to be a lawyer. I originally came out of law school as a gang prosecutor in the the Bay Area here in California. And then I left that to work in a law firm and realized that I didn't really like working in a law firm. And all the people were lovely, just kind of wasn't really for me. But I developed a bunch of clients in wine and restaurants and things like that. So they were always my favorite clients because they would always feed me or give me something to drink every time I met with them. And when I left the law firm, I got a job working pretty much as consigliere to Jess Jackson, who's the legend who started Kendall Jackson and that family of businesses. And through that, I got a real, developed business education and on the job. And then he sent me to the executive program at Stanford Business School. And so I got out of that. And when he passed away, I started my own consulting business, working in beer, wine, spirits, eventually in cannabis, doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions, doing a lot of, frankly, crisis management. I think my career has been one version of crisis management or another for 30-something years. And really kind of got a good insight into a lot of different aspects, a lot of different verticals in mostly consumer products industries. But in the meantime, while I was working with Jess, I also turned my garage into a commercial brewery. And I didn't know it at the time, but I started one of the first 3 nano brewers in the country. So had that sort of insight and hands-on operational experience with a tiny brewery and some burn scars and things like that. And that developed into more of a sort of structured consulting business. So I did a lot of mergers and acquisitions and enterprise integration and sort of general management and business repositioning consulting work for a number of years. And then that sort of coalesced into working with, I had been working with my father on a couple other projects. And so we'd always thought it'd be fun to do something sort of together as a family business. And I have a couple siblings. And so I had always thought about beer as being a good place to be. It's pretty recession resistant. And back when we were thinking about this in 2018, people thought a recession was going to be coming. So I took a hard look at a few businesses, and I was able to connect with the ownership at Anderson Valley at the time, and we were able to negotiate a deal. So we bought Anderson in December of 2019, which was a fateful couple of months before COVID upended everything. But it's been an interesting and kind of crazy ride since then.
Yeah, you definitely are coming at this from a different angle. So when you said 30 plus years of crisis management, in a lot of ways, that does position you as I think, a very key person in a national brewery, because you're certainly going to be fighting a lot of fires, both either sales, marketing, or operationally. So that, that ability to break a problem down and analyze it and, kind of go through triage. It's got to be extremely helpful.
It's been critical. I mean, we've really at this point, what we did was just focus on controlling the things that we could control and the stuff that was in-house. And we really kind of ripped the Band-Aids off of everything at the same time because, we had to be working on something. So we kind of attacked every angle. I mean, other than, the legacy beers, which are the same, and the brewing crew and the staff here, everything about the company has pretty much been completely changed. We've done completely new branding and refreshed logos, all new packaging. We've changed our packaging formats. We implemented an ERP system, which then didn't work out, and so we implemented a second, which is working, which is great. All of the kind of
Which ERP did you try to start with?
We were using now it's Encompass, but at the time it was Orchestrated. And we had a lot of challenges with that, and now
it's a money pit. Installing an ERP is an absolute money pit.
Oh, and it was the big problem that we had with it was that the technology was based off of this old SAP back end, and it was just a real nightmare to try and go in and correct data entry, and there were some things that just sort of links were broken, so I was never able to do like cash flow reporting and sort of cash flow management dashboarding or anything, just because different things in different parts of the system just weren't talking to each other. And it literally,
that's SAP.
Yeah.
That's really the problem with SAP. I've heard so many nightmares.
Oh.
Back when I was a headhunter in Atlanta, so many of my big clients, they were all either running SAP or they had scrapped it after they spent millions. So anyway, it's an interesting side note.
It literally never worked correctly. So
right, exactly. So free advice: stay away from anything big, large, and bulky like that. So yeah, you went through this rebranding. I'm curious, how did you come up with, or what's the story behind a bear with deer antlers? What is that? That's such a unique kind of logo that you guys have.
Yeah, that's actually a legacy piece. So one of the things that we really, really liked about Anderson, and I'd lived, before we bought it, I lived less than an hour from the brewery, so I was very familiar with it over a long time. And Anderson is 35 years old. It's been around for more than 3 decades, and has kind of landed old school craft brewery. But that was it's an old joke about what do you get when you cross a bear and a deer? You get a beer. And it's a joke that the brewery had been kind of using as its kind of logo or as its mascot since 1987. And when we got involved, it was a concept that my wife is our creative director, thought about for branding, because it was something that we could use almost like the old Absolute bottle. It's like we can kind of dress it up or dress it down. If you look at sort of our packaging in a row, there's a couple different packages where we modify the bear a bit. Like we have a tropical hazy sour beer where the bear is he's in a tropical location and has a headdress on, and some of the
right.
Like
I see that.
And then like the summer solstice and the winter solstice are sort of summer and winter scenes, and the winter solstice actually on the cardboard package has sort of a do not disturb sign on a cage where he's
he's hibernating.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's just kind of fun to run with that. And the big issue that we saw, well, not the big issue, one of the big issues that we saw with the brewery when we bought it was that it needed to improve its consumer-facing marketing and engage, with the humans that are actually drinking the products more effectively. And so one of the ways we thought of doing that and signaling that was to really kind of get the bear sort of up and, interacting, make some eye contact and that kind of thing. And so the design developed from there. And a lot of, it took a while to get it right. We discovered, talking with our illustrator, that it's very difficult to illustrate a bear that looks friendly, that doesn't look stupid. So you either sort of had like cocaine murder bear or you had Yogi. And so right. To get in between, we took some pictures of my old dog, Gordy, and we sent the pictures to the illustrator and said, look, just put Gordy's face inside a bear head. And he did it, and it was like, oh, this is perfect. So Gordy gets to live on with the brewery. He was a lab golden mix, and it works out really well.
You touched on something about, you realized from the sales and marketing point of view, you weren't maybe doing a good enough job with the consumer facing. How did you know that? What was the signal? What was the feedback or lack thereof that you thought you had a problem or an area of opportunity?
And we did look at it as an area of opportunity. It really was just going in and kind of knowing the brand before we got the keys. And the big issue that we saw was one that was affecting a number of other legacy brands in craft beer also, which was that some of them grew up during a period of time where in about 2012 or so to about 2016, where if you just could put liquid on a truck, you had insane growth rates that were available to you. And for some of those brands that were able to kind of rocket ship through that, they just never developed the capability, because they didn't need to talk to a consumer and to drive the depletions off of the shelf. There was a huge draw and drawdown of craft beer from retail accounts, and not a whole lot of competition. And when that changed, some of them really never kind of pivoted with it. And Anderson was really one of those. I mean, Anderson, like I said, 35 years old, is a national brand. It's been around for a long time, done a lot of very important things in craft beer, but it lost sort of the top of mind and topicality of being a very vibrant craft beer brand, simply because it kind of sat on its laurels for a while. And that was sort of the opportunity that we saw, which was we have a brewery that's been making exceptional beer for more than 30 years. And if what we need to do is fix how we're communicating to the people that are buying it, then that's a turnaround, and that's a crisis management exercise that can move sort of at the speed of people and can move at the speed of digital communications, rather than a fix like, for example, like in the wine industry, where you may need to put different wine in a barrel and wait for 3 years before it gets out into the market. So that was really kind of the opportunity, was there was so much authenticity and so much content that came along with the brewery that really our job was to remind people about it and tell people about it. And that was a much easier fix than if the brewery had a quality control issue or had some other substantive thing.
Right. You already had a beer that people liked.
Right.
So it was high quality. So, but let's talk through that though, because in marketing, there's a concept that you do A/B testing. You'll run with A and test it, and you'll run with B and test it. So from a sales and marketing point of view, broadly speaking, how did you go about finalizing that, yes, this is working, let's continue? Because that's a big problem that companies have. They try lots of different techniques, but how do you land on the right one? How did you know you had landed on the right one?
We don't really do A/B testing. We don't do focus group testing. I've done it in the past and I've never really gotten great results from it. And I don't know if that's me or just, how we went about doing it. What we kind of do instead is just make sure that we have an honest and thorough understanding of who our consumers are and, how we're reaching them and the kinds of things that we want to resonate, there. And it really kind of, it's I think more work because it involves a lot more sort of personal interaction and a lot more of being in the market and sort of physically being in places with the people that you want to talk to and talking to them. And then the other part of that is also just sort of understanding who we are and who we aren't, and being pretty brutal in assessing, what really is our addressable market, where do we want to participate, where do we want to put resources, and then how do we go about kind of doing that? In some senses, we have the benefit in craft beer of, a lot of craft brewers really are the demographic and are, the people that they're kind of talking to. It's a lot of people who, kind of grew up in the industry by being, both the industry as in a consumer sense as well as, producer sense too. So there is some connection there. But, that said, there's a definite risk, because one of the things that craft beer and certain craft breweries really kind of haven't done is be sensitive to some of the changes in those demographics and some of the changes in, consumer preference. And so it's actually, I think it's more work to do it the way that we've done it. But I think you eventually kind of get to a product, by product, I mean, a marketing, concept, or even if it's just sort of branding image or something like that, that has got a little bit more sort of resonance and a little bit more roots in the organization and the people that are part of the organization. And then that comes across with a benefit to, authenticity and how you're able to connect with people.
You're in 46 states?
43, I think. We just added a couple.
Talk to me about your sales and marketing staff. Are they deployed, or do you just fly out and meet with your distributors and put on events? What does that look like practically?
Oh, they're deployed. We have a national sales team that, are embedded in different parts of the markets in the country. We have sort of retrenched a bit more on the West Coast from when we bought the brewery. And our marketing team is really kind of like me and my wife and the dog for the most part. But we have an outside communications firm that really does all the heavy lifting in terms of marketing execution. So we hired professionals that know what they're doing and have got kind of market insights that we want to test, in-house. And so they handle our social media and those types of outreach. A lot of the content and the content development really kind of comes from here, from the brewery. And I write a lot of the copy, and we sort of set priorities for communications and things like that. But I do also travel around. I mean, the distributors are also your first line of customers. If you're not sort of selling to your distributor, or at least thinking that you need to service that relationship by making sure that they've got buy-in, they understand what you're talking about, and that kind of thing. Then you're missing probably 80% of your opportunity, because that's the first threshold. You need to have a good relationship, with the distributors that are out there, and have a good partnership going on.
They seem to have all the power.
They have a lot of
it. Feels like that. It feels like it.
And it's particularly in alcohol, where you have a mandated, middle tier. There are circumstances that are going on every day and in every market where distributors are picking and choosing winners, not based on quality of product, but based on other factors, either economic or emotional or interpersonal or something like that. And consumers are not getting the kind of the depth of choice that they otherwise would in sort of a fair level environment. And it's a big challenge to go find those partners and the people that you can work with. We inherited a pretty dysfunctional and fragmented distribution network, and have been fixing it, tweaking it, and all that. We're kind of pretty much to kind of where we like it. I'm actually making 2 changes, believe it or not, this week. I think we're basically done with that, but it's been a big project for a while, and COVID made everything worse too, because most of the distributors out there de-risked their inventory, which means they didn't bring in product. And if they're not bringing in product beyond what they are 100% confident that they've kind of pre-sold, then there's no room for growth. And if there's no room for growth, by definition, you're going to start contracting. And so having those conversations and sort of fighting those instincts that they had during COVID has been a big project.
Yeah, I mean, alcohol was on the rise in terms of sales. I remember seeing videos of people walking. They would take their cell phone and they would just literally walk down their street, and they would film the recycling bins, and they were just loaded with spent bottles. So that ended up working, I think, as a benefit to sales, and to the alcohol industry once they understood what was happening.
It depended on where you were in the market, though. What ended up happening was the on-premise and the draft business literally died.
No, you're right. No, I was referring to retail. No, you're correct. If you were loaded in, on-prem, then you were going to take it.
Right. So if you were like one of the larger sort of, national outfits that had, distributors that already, had infrastructure and were doing pallet drops of products, at these large retailers where people were doing the pantry loading, you killed it. And there was a number of brands that absolutely killed it. Now, the problem for the rest of the industry was that the chain buyers stopped taking meetings because, COVID. And then they also kind of froze a lot of their sets in place. And so if you were on the outside, looking in, and that was one of the things that we had on our list of things to fix was, to go and, renovate our chain presence. We were kind of frozen out of that process for a couple of years. So unless you were one of those sort of landed, chosen to succeed shelf presence brands, in there, which is, single digit percentages of the craft beer community.
Yeah, that's true.
You did not benefit at all from the pantry loading and some of the statistics that people threw out at the time about, what was going on with alcohol in the retail sphere.
What trends are you seeing now in beer and consumer sentiments, Kevin?
I think we're seeing, flavor-wise, I think we're seeing, kind of two strong trends that aren't necessarily consistent with each other. One is, more of a return to kind of beer-flavored beer and less of sort of stunt junkie attitude towards, what people are drinking and what they're trying. There's a little bit of fatigue, I think, with some of the wackier stuff that has been, rotated and produced and sort of sent out into the market. So the beer-flavored beer is returning to having its moment. And then another big trend is with just higher alcohol. There is a move towards value in terms of ABV per dollar that some of the market, some of the consumers, I don't think it's comprehensive, but some of the consumers are kind of leaning into, and so that's become sort of a thing. So you have, a lot of the sort of high, quality beer-flavored beers are not necessarily high alcohol. And then you also have, the other, trend that's happening too, which is with non-alcoholic, beers too.
Non-alc is definitely growing. Do you have an offering in that space? We
don't. We have taken a look at a lot of other options for things that people refer to as beyond beer, between non-alc and seltzers and, spirits and things. And we made a conscious decision that we're really good at making craft beer, and we're going to kind of stick with that and sort of say no to some of the shiny objects that are waving themselves around there to be there.
That's smart. That's smart.
The for us, the analysis on non-alc was really, twofold. First, to make a really good, flavorful non-alcoholic beer is difficult and requires equipment that we didn't have. So making a marginal non-alcoholic beer was just never something that we would do. And then also, just on a thematic side, for what would be a fit for the brewery, I don't think a non-alcoholic beer fits quite as well because it feels like a bit of a compromise from what we do well. So if we were going to do a non-alcoholic offering, it would probably be closer to a hop water than it would be, a de-alcoholized or non-alcoholic beer. And that's just a stylistic thing. So
and that's a good brand, and it does taste pretty good.
Yeah, no, the hop waters. And there's a bunch of offerings. Hop water is one of the most visible.
Correct.
But I've had them, and they're good. A lot of them are, they're made to be refreshing, and it's kind of an alternative. And
it's kind of got a hint of it. And interestingly, Jordan Bass, he's the CEO. He was saying that they tend to trend toward female that category. So interesting. So before I kind of jump back to your brand and what you're doing kind of on site at your venue and some of the new things you're doing with solar, before we kind of get into that, because you're national, in terms of your brewing capabilities, do you have more than one, or do you manufacture everything there in the Valley there in California?
No, we do everything here in Anderson Valley, in a little town called Boonville. We're in a valley surrounded by redwood trees. It's actually really beautiful.
Oh, it sounds gorgeous.
Thoroughly inconvenient at the same time. But we have actually quite a sizable facility out here. The facility is on about close to a 30-acre piece of property, and it was built, purpose-built in 1995. Back with the original owner, of the breweries. So we have a lot of capacity here, and have just gotten really good at getting trucks in and out of the valley through the windy roads.
Tell us about this venue, because when I'm imagining a 30-acre property in the valley surrounded by redwoods, it would just scream events. Let's do things on site. Let's build this strong brand community where we're really connecting with people locally. So for people who aren't familiar with what you do there, tell us.
Sure. So we have, like I said, about 30 acres. We're in Anderson Valley, which is a little bit difficult to get to for folks. And so we don't have a ton of drop-in traffic, except when kind of people are running to and from different locations, unless we give people a reason to kind of be here. So Some of the things we've developed on the property was that I took the licensing for the tap room that we have here, and I expanded it to the fence line of the property. So the entire property is actually licensed as a tap room. So we try and encourage people to kind of just go outside, don't hang out in the tap room. Go outside, walk around. See the property. We have an 18-hole disc golf course that's free to play.
That's amazing.
I've got.
Are you any good?
Oh no, I'm terrible. And it's also really hard for me to justify, walking around and playing disc golf when I should be working. Look,
all work, no play makes Kevin a dull boy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's what the dog is for. So we go back and he runs in the stream in the back of the property.
Oh, it just sounds idyllic. Okay, so you've got this, so people can walk around. They've got their beer in hand. They can play disc golf. Do you have like bands and festivals that show up? Yeah, we built. Actually, a couple locals asked us if it would be okay if they built us an outdoor stage, because we were having a bunch of outdoor music, and there's there's a lot of redwood in the area, and so some part-time musician, part-time carpenters got together and built us an outdoor stage. We planted about a 10,000 square foot outdoor lawn by the tap room. I've got a local artisan who comes in and installed a number of fairy doors in some of the tree trunks. And so you can bring your toddler and have them walk around, look for fairy doors as you have a beer. Very dog friendly. We don't have any interior fencing and stuff like that too. So, but we do a lot of events, whatever we can. There's like some gravel bike races that use our place as headquarters. That sounds amazing. I mean, that's what every cyclist wants after they're done. They drink beer. I mean, that's like, that's what cyclists do.
Yes, they do. So,
I'm a cyclist. I'm very well aware of this.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we have the Fish Rock runs out of here, and that was it's a crazy race that goes kind of out to the coast and back. And Lance Armstrong was in it a few years ago and came in second. If that gives you an indication of how hard it is.
Tells you, right? It tells you the level of competition, right? That sounds amazing, Kevin. What a great multi-use.
And it's a pretty amazing facility as a facility too. We're actually the world's first solar powered brewery.
Yeah, tell us about that. Is like how much of your operation are you actually able to use, or can you power through solar? So
we cover about half of our power usage through the solar array that we've been running for the last 20 years. And we have a plan. Actually, it's being drawn up, and I've got an interconnection agreement I'm reviewing with PG&E to hopefully soon expand that. So the expansion plan is drawn up to provide 110% of our projected
little
power
buyback
needs.
Opportunity.
Right. So we can send it back to, like, there's a couple, sustainable, power sort of, buyers and sellers of, out here. Sonoma Clean Power is one of them. And so we can contribute to that in the community doing that. And then also the system will have its own battery-based backup, and we'll be able to run for probably about a week without, we kind of put everything on life support, be able to maintain. Because out here we get some public safety power shutoffs during fire season where, we need to have a plan for it. So we wouldn't have to use fossil fuels or anything like that to do that.
Do you have any plans with water?
Yeah, the water system here is actually, I don't know if it's unique anymore. It used to be unique, but it's pretty incredible. We run our own really self-contained water cycle. So we have 10 wells on the property that we use to draw all of the water that we use. And then we also have our own treatment and discharge system on the property too. So unless the water leaves as an ingredient in the beer, all of the water that we use is sustainably treated and then returned to the property we take it from. And that's been happening for 25 years or more. So we're technically a zero effluent production facility.
How big a part is that sustainability, the solar and the water? Does that support or contribute to your sales and marketing?
It contributes. One of the things about the sustainability factors, and we're very vocal about sustainability. But one of the things about it is that it will not sell a product for you. The data is really pretty clear. There's a lot of people that consider it to be an important consideration, but when actually presented with purchasing decisions, they go for quality products instead of compromising, or in their mind compromising, for sustainable products. Where it does come in handy is if you have a product that is high quality and people will try it, they will connect with it on a lot stronger level and in a lot more meaningful ways than if you didn't. And then also it works well as a tiebreaker for people comparing different things. So while it doesn't really, it will never actually sell or drive sales for you, but what it does do is it gives you a great way to connect with consumers and communicate the kinds of things that are important to you, the kind of people that you are, and the kind of brand that you are. And that has, really tremendous downstream effects. They're not immediate, but they're tremendous.
I'm glad you said that, because there is a lot of thinking out there. How much do we emphasize? How much do we de-emphasize? I think you kind of you cleared that up. You made it very clear. Also, gosh, I just had it. Dang it. Well, this is why we edit. I had a good question for you. Dang it. It was right there. It just vaporized. Go ahead.
Well, sustainability, there is another factor for sustainability too, which is that, sustainable production practices are very solid business practices as well. The economic case for sustainability initiatives is super clear, and it's become, kind of even more important in, post-COVID era with, inflation and some of the other economic, factors that are going on. Doing things like changing our packaging. We eliminated all of our glass packaging, and we also eliminated plastic. And so we're now doing all aluminum and cardboard with our packaging. And that's allowed us to reduce our shipping compared to glass by 60%. And then we've done things like we installed a nitrogen generator, which allowed us to replace up to 80% of our carbon dioxide usage here, at the brewery, which allows us to further reduce, shipping and trucking coming into the brewery to deliver the CO2, and also reduces, just the use of a greenhouse gas. And so those are two examples of some really significant cost savings. Like the nitrogen generator, I think paid for itself in 8 months. That are also, sustainability practices, and really, a lot of sustainability is based around, okay, how do we eliminate waste and just get more efficient? Well, if you eliminate waste and get more efficient, that's a cost savings, that's an expense reduction. So the economic
margin builder.
Right. So, the economic, benefits to sustainability functions are basically built in. It's not sort of a side effect. It's one of the primary, effects of doing this kind of thing.
Well, do you have any big plans or vision for 2023? Anything you'd like to kind of leave us with?
We have we have a really cool product that we just launched about 2 weeks ago. We're doing a collaboration with the Surfrider Foundation. So we launched this beer called the Coastal Ale, where we're donating 5% of our gross margin from sales of this product directly to Surfrider. And so we've got a lot of fun things planned to work with them, over the summer and kind of, basically forever. And so that's going to be happening too. And, this year is our 35th anniversary. And so we're talking about that a lot. And it's our 25th Boonville Beer Festival. And we've got a couple thousand people coming out to the brewery for that. And
when does that happen?
April 29th.
Oh, that's coming up.
Yeah. It's pretty quick. So, and it's pretty crazy. We have people that, technically the beer festival itself is for 5 hours on Saturday, but there's people that show up on Thursday and leave on Tuesday. So it's very much. A bunch of
hippies are out there. A bunch of freeloading hippies out there on your lawn.
There's a lot of camping. We don't let people camp on the brewery property itself. There's too many people, so it's the fairgrounds down the street. We allow some of the brewers and the industry folks that come out just as an accommodation and a thank you for coming and pouring at the brewery. We let them camp at the property, and it turns into a little bit of a community building thing, which is great. But the The zoo is down the street.
The
a little
zoo,
bit.
right? Exactly. Push that down the street. You got enough crazy, Not your circus, not your monkeys. Get it off property.
Yeah, it's good though. I mean, it's people are there are people that come into town and they use it as a as a reunion event. I mean, there's some classes and people that have gone to school together that all meet up there, or people that have were in the area and have since dispersed to different parts of the country that all come back. All of the alumni from Humboldt State come in and they play as the Firkin Tappers. Basically, we just have a marching band of about 24 people just wandering around all the time. And it's,
man, this just sounds it sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, there's one brewery trailers in about a 24-foot barbecue pit. Just makes food for people.
Sounds like a great time. This is one of those times when I just wish I lived closer. But I don't. I'm in North Carolina, so we'll have to make our way out to Boonville Beer Fest at some point.
Yeah.
Kevin, we could just go.
Too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could sample the beer. In fact, I need to make that a priority. Well, Kevin, good talking to you today.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, I think.
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to find you guys online and get to the store locator?
AVBC.com. There's a little button on the top right corner that says Find Beer and Delivery. So we link to a bunch of delivery services, as well as are able to vector you in to any local stores that have got either products on draft or in package. And you can search there and it'll show you where to go.
Awesome. There's a couple really cool towns close to me, Bryson City and Silva. They've got some really nice tap rooms. I bet I can find it over there. Oh, yeah. Kevin, great talking to you, and look forward to following up a little bit later to see, how things are continuing to progress and get a little bit more, trends and consumer sentiments.
Thanks, Tony.